It is the year 2021. The Path of Exile community is divided. After finally seizing the means of crafting once again, the working class exiles are in shambles, as harvest nerfs have been announced. Streamers either take the side of the working class, pretending to understand what it feels like to play Path of Exile for less than 26 hours a day, to earn themselves some cheap and easy street cred. While on the other side, we have the elite 0.1% defending vigorously the last bastion of gameplay, with goals and difficulty that cater towards a no-life gamer, the only one they have left in this day and age. Welcome to the Harvest Wars. But during these trying times TM, one man stands alone, blessed and cursed with the ability of critical thinking, and imbued with the insights of having an actual real-life job outside of streaming Path of Exile for 26 hours a day. And this Yoji is here to set things right, as he will bring the ultimate knowledge to the people. And that knowledge is, both sides of the argument are completely wrong. But you know who is even wronger than that? Grinding Gear Games. And I'm not even talking about the balance changes they planned. How the development manifesto was presented was a PR disaster. I don't know how Chris Wilson snuck this one out without having anyone with a reasonable amount of stonks in the meme economy of Wall Street even have a look at it. Hell, if they'd shown this post to any Path of Exile streamer before release, they'd be able to tell them this post would get memed to Standard League harder and faster than Quinn in the Gauntlet event. If Grinding Gear Games wants, I'll offer my services to them as a meme advisor. As long as my job title is Master of Memes, I'd even do it free of charge. Just so I'm able to put Master of Memes into my CV with a reference, of course. And one of the main reasons for the backlash is, and don't get me wrong, there would have been a backlash either way, as with all nerfs of a beloved and powerful system. But the main reason here is that it presents chaos and exalt crafting as the alternative. That is a horrible way to frame the harvest changes, as no one has ever engaged with that Exalt Chaos crafting system in a meaningful way in years. This post by GGG feeds perfectly into the already growing narrative in the community, or at least in the most toxic parts of the community, that the developers of Path of Exile are completely out of touch with the state of the game. And it's hard to blame them after reading such a thing. If they'd at least mentioned essence crafting, fossils, meta crafting, and maybe even alteration regal multimod crafting, that would at least have sounded like the person writing this has done some meaningful crafting in Path of Exile since Prophecy League. Now to address the two opposing points that are, as mentioned before, objectively and factually and completely wrong. Or to put it properly, I think they are missing the point, because the underlying issue of which harvest is a symptom in my opinion lies elsewhere, and has been lying there for over 3 years now, which was when I made this video, where I talk about the problem with Path of Exile's loot and gear progression. And this stuff, 3 years old, still holds true to this day. In the Everlasting Harvest debate, one side argues that crafting is too OP and should be brought down so gear progression isn't too easy, while the other side argues that the working class exiles are taking collateral damage in the process of nerfing the top tier items and the top tier players. And if you are a working class exile with very limited playtime, you know you are mostly unaffected by all these changes. I know I can count the amount of add remove crafts I have seen in Ritual League on both of my hands. Here, let me show you my secret stash tab, where I store all the perfect items I made during this league. And here are all my mirror tier items that I made during Harvest League, because then we had even more access to crafting. Here, these are the ones that are still stored in my standard stash tab. Yep, there are none. Absolutely none. I haven't made a single perfect item. And I've played a lot more than most people do. And I have the knowledge, I know how to make these items. It's simply that playing 1.5, 2, maybe 3 hours a day for a few weeks just isn't enough, and that's what most people do. And to the people wanting to nerf Harvest to bring PoE's gear progression back in line with a more difficult and old school grindy experience, the one that we had before, which is actually what I would like, especially when looking at the Softcore Trade League, which is the most played game mode in Path of Exile. Nerfing Harvest isn't changing it all that much, is it? Top tier players will still print insane gear as they always have, the Redditors will still cry about it as they always have, and you and me will still largely be unaffected by all of this, like we always have. Yes, some prices will change, some gear will get cheaper, but overall, I don't think it really changes the core of the issue here. Harvest is neither the problem nor the solution to PoE's pretty scuffed, outdated, brought out of whack by power creep gear progression, and the rare item loot that is simply horrible for many years now, with many people hiding almost all, if not all, rares on their loot filter. Harvest is, if anything, a band-aid fix. And of course, it is more engaging and interesting to use on items than Chaos and Exalted Orbs, especially when Chaos Orbs even in SSF should mainly be used for Zana map device crafts, and Exalted Orbs are simply too valuable to ever use them on an item that you will actually see in-game, and not just in Path of Building, even compared to Essence and Fossils. Harvest is quite a bit more interesting and approachable in my opinion, and allows for a more targeted crafting approach to craft also gear for example off-meta builds, which I enjoy playing a lot. However, no matter how good or cool or fun you find Harvest crafting, the gameplay loop of Harvest, of killing the plants, is honestly quite boring, and having so much crafting power in a single system propagates incredibly repetitive and dull gameplay loops to upgrade your gear. But I have an amazing and revolutionary two-part idea. One is so simple, it might shock you. Part 1. Spread out the best crafting options between multiple areas of the game. We used to have all the best gear locked behind fossil crafting. That was a boring meta. Now all those OP mods are mostly behind influence modifiers, and Harvest enables them. Just spread them out a bit. We got so much different endgame content. How about we put some crafting options and rewards instead of just unique items? Awakener and Maven Orbs are already a step in that direction, which is good. Keep that up, GGG. Spread out all the OP and cool stuff a bit more. That would also make it so that people can't as easily optimize for farming as many crafts as possible as fast as possible, and actually maybe would think about target farming certain specific content for specific rewards. That actually sounds fun. Who would have thought? Secondly, remember how the genre of games Path of Exile belongs to is sometimes not only called ARPG, but to differentiate it from other action role-playing games such as Dark Souls, it used to be called a loot-based ARPG. How about we remember where the genre came from and create a system where we move away from the economy-based ARPG or a crafting menu-based ARPG back to a system where farming bosses, challenging content, and endgame quests such as master missions are actually the best way to acquire good, amazing, fun items. And for those of you that do enjoy crafting, how about a system where the dropped loot interacts in a meaningful way with a crafting system, providing materials for further crafts and providing item bases and drop-only affixes, like the incursion or delve-only modifiers, that then can be further improved with a risk versus reward-based semi-deterministic crafting system. A crafting system that allows for improving items in meaningful ways without the constant risk of making them instantly unusable with each step, instead of bricking items, creating soft fail states where further crafting is prohibited, but use of the item is not hampered in any way, and only make fully destroying items an outcome for the final touches and the very few most rewarding crafting steps, like for example double corruptions. Imagine such a game would exist. Wouldn't that be amazing? Subscribe to my channel for more Path of Exile memes. I'm Yoji, and I will see you soon.